Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. We hope your day was filled with powerful possibilities, which you recognized and to which you were able to respond with positive results. Today, we welcome the authors of the upcoming anthology, Courage in Cannabis, envisioned by Dr. Bridget Williams of Green Harvest Health, a holistic health practitioner. We look forward to sharing with you, our listening audience, insights and experiences on this controversial topic. Our first guest is Broderick Randle II, who is a legal medical patient with the qualifying condition of sickle cell anemia. He is a board member of the Cincinnati Sickle Cell Alliance, where he fights not only for a greater awareness of sickle cell, but also for the education in and the proper use of cannabis in fighting this debilitating disease. He is particularly concerned with the homegrown option as a patient's deserved rights. He is now a contributing author to the anthology, Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Broderick.
Good evening.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? There you are.
There you are. Stop laughing. We all human. Hi, Broderick. How are you?
That's right. It's my good. I'm good. How are you too?
I can't complain. We're so happy to be here and happy to share our platform with you. So tell us about your disease and how cannabis is helping you with that.
Well, my sister and I, we were born with sickle cell anemia. It's a genetic blood disease. My mother and father both had the trait, and together, when they had offspring, that's how myself and my sister, we were born with the full disease, but it causes severe pain. It's an autoimmune disorder. It's it's hidden, so you can't see it. So that's a major factor. And it majority affects the Black and Brown communities. So it's not really known about it. It's sad that those communities are already affected with so many things, and then here that it is another condition or suffering sort of that most folks don't know about. So cannabis has helped provide a much better quality of life in regards of not having to rely on the opioids as much, and not having to go to the hospital to get hospitalized as much and get those high dose medicines. It's allowed me to be able to work full time and be able to support myself and try to help raise awareness and spread education about it. It's not easy, but trying to stand up against it. My doctor, I have to still go to the regular physicians to get checked, but they're not all of them are okay with it. So, that's sometimes a struggle trying to explain it, but and stand up for it. But it helps with a lot, from mood to appetite, just so many things. It's been able to be beneficial, and it wasn't something that was discovered over time. I mean, it was something that was discovered over time, but it was something that was kind of like usually frowned upon, especially when I was growing up. So it was like, with me being the first in my family to go to college, I didn't want to, and that's when I discovered it. I didn't want to really make awareness of it at the time, because I was afraid it was still, the devil's lettuce, or basically a gateway drug. But the more and more I've been learning and researching, it's definitely more of an exit drug, and it's a natural plant that has been doing history, it's been used well before us in our time too. It's just kind of due to racial laws and other injustice views, it's become illegal again, basically federally illegal, which is sad because it's a plant.
Right, exactly. And how can you make a plant illegal? And just like you said, at one point it was legal. So my whole thing is, when did it become illegal? Because alcohol to me is way, way worse
Mhm.
than cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to many officers and even defense attorneys, and they've said that alcohol has caused more incidents, and they're in courts for way more alcohol incidents than cannabis incidents, unless it's like a drug charge, which is really unnecessary.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you said that you work with educating people and you're in the process of working on home grow option as a patient's deserved rights. What's all that about?
Well, I mean, as far as educating people, I mean, uh, I've I've worked at a dispensary, so that's where I started. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door in the industry. I've worked at one of the first dispensaries that opened in Central Ohio, so we've seen quite a bit of patients and was able to, passionately express my connection with the plant as well as, the knowledge I had onto others, and help them learn that this is a new like a whole new medical field, and it's going to take them keeping notes or keeping track of everything, because in this side of things, I feel like you're going to be your own doctor more so than just having the doctor to go to and tell you everything. And you should have that relationship but with the doctor, but I still feel like with cannabis, you're gonna have that relationship. Everyone has a different experience with it, so you want to keep track of that, and and then I've also recently taught a online course, so that's just another way I've been trying to teach and spread the awareness and education on the plant, about how important it is and what you select to grow, and where and how often, all the different things that matters before you even get your final product. There's so much more to it. A lot of people may not realize how long it may take to cultivate and how tough it can be, whether it's indoor or outdoor. uh, it's amazing to see how people, working in a dispensary, you can see people like, really, they're all on different levels of cannabis education. So it's important to do my best to just try to anyone that's willing to listen. I'll try to help spread the good word about it, and I'm now working at a processing facility, Leaves, which we make medical cannabis products and provide them to the dispensaries to sell. So, or we sell them to the dispensaries and they sell them, but we provide other options other than combusting in flower or vaping it. I mean, we have vape cart options, but there's gummy options. We make just different forms of the cannabis plants to show them that you don't have to just inhale or smoke your greens. You can eat your greens too.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. In your at the dispensary, what are the range of medical conditions that present at your location? So like you have sickle cell, what other illnesses present who are using cannabis?
Well, all right, I'll answer your homegrown too really quick, because Well, I answer that first. I don't know all the illnesses, but there's like, I want to say 25 to 26 conditions that they've allowed, and I don't know them all by heart, honestly, but arthritis is one, HIV, chronic pain is the number one. There's PTSD. There's forget. I'm drawing a blank on all of them, honestly.
That's
But
okay.
there's limited conditions with the number one, anxiety isn't on there. I've definitely fought and advocated for autism to be on there as well. I've helped the state rep Juanita Brent and few parents try to who has children with autism. They went and provided testimonies to speak in why cannabis should be, or autism should be, a qualifying condition. So in my opinion, I think cannabis is medical for everyone, or medicinal for everyone. We just need the full, I mean, there's plenty of research out there, especially even overseas, but we just need the research to be able to be done here so that everyone could lay off and respect it more. And also to answer briefly, the other homegrown question you mentioned, I am advocating for that too. I do believe a patient deserves to either have a caregiver, or if they themselves want to be able to grow their own medicines, they should be able to. They will be able to know what's going in it and learn how to respect it. And like I said, the whole process of it, they'll see it's not just, it doesn't happen overnight. And in general, it'll make you respect life in general, Mother Nature, even farming. You may even want to grow your own food, because cannabis is food and medicine. And so is, the tomatoes and fruits and vegetables that grows too. So if you can learn to grow that, it'll teach you to, respect everything around you.
Absolutely. So if people want to connect with you, how do they do so?
If you would like to connect with me, you can connect with me, Broderick Randle Jr. on Facebook, on IG. You can connect with me. It's making_vision_moves, and in my cannabis account, it's a Cannavisions. It's CANNAIVIZIONZ. And those are the options, you can reach me at, or even if you want to reach me on the business side, Broderick@benaleaves.com is a good option too. So.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much for sharing. We truly appreciate you, and we do understand the importance of letting people understand that cannabis is not what they think. It's not the taboo or that criminal thing that a lot of people have grown to know. It is helping people in so many different ways, health-wise.
Correct. Cannabis is medicine. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Broderick.
Have a good evening.
Our next guest is Dorothy Thigpen, who worked for more than 20 years on independent media in New York City. She began her media career working at ACTV 21 Cable Access and with the National Black Programming Consortium. Dorothy was formerly the Director of Production Assistance at Women Make Movies, then became the Executive Director of Third World Newsreel, TWN. Now Dorothy is an avid advocate for medical cannabis and received a Cannabis Executive certificate from Cleveland School of Cannabis. Welcome, Dorothy.
Yes. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you.
Wow. What a 365 from media to cannabis. So tell us how that
Oh,
happened.
that's not such a big, a lot of media artists use cannabis.
So
Yeah.
how did you be started? What made you become an advocate for it?
Well, I had used cannabis myself for fibromyalgia, migraine headaches, cramps, things like that. Of course, when I was younger and a teenager and in college, I definitely would indulge recreationally. But I was actually pretty much self-medicating. I didn't use it a lot, but it helped with my anxiety and depression. I had been diagnosed with social anxiety and depression. So it helped with that. I wasn't really cognizant of that, but I knew when I used it in a social setting, it really helped me relax. But my mother, she found out she had lymphoma in the 70s when I was young. And the doctor told her, hey, you have teenage and college age kids and you're on intensive radiation and chemotherapy. You know, with a wink and a nod, he said, why don't you get them to get you some cannabis to help you with the effects? And that was in the 70s. So that was the first time that I really could see the medicinal value of the plant. And my mother, she was really sick, and especially after chemo and radiation, and she couldn't eat. And we tried everything, but the very first time she tried cannabis, she was able to eat. And from that point on, it really helped her in a lot of ways. And she didn't do it that often, but it really helped back then. So I learned a lot between that time and the time that I returned home to be her caregiver in the past few years. I came back home like around 2013, 2014. And she had diabetes and a lot of complications from the diabetes. And she also was slowly developing dementia. And, you know, I'm sure that was a little bit related to the diabetes complications, but she was having TIAs, which are transient ischemic mini strokes. So I got home and she was on 9 or 10 medications a day. And my very first major in college was pharmacy. My dad was a pharmacist. So in the household, we talked about medicine a lot. And because I was going into pharmacy, which I really was just doing because of them. I was really into art. But I just was really interested in all the medications they were giving her for high blood pressure. I mean, just literally 9 or 10 pills a day. And so my first reaction and the first thing I did was start looking up every single thing that they were giving her. and also the interaction between all of those pills.
Yes.
And some of them really should not have been taken together.
Mhm.
And so I started looking at all of her conditions or ailments, and I was able to get her off of insulin
Wow.
through nutrition and her diet.
Mhm.
I was able to get her off of at least two or three medications. And I knew she really wasn't, since those years in the 70s and 80s, she really never used cannabis. But I think basically it was because the stigma,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was from Brooklyn, and I had a neighbor, and I would bring home here from my home in Brooklyn. I would bring some cannabis, and I talked to my brothers about it, and one was kind of like, I don't know, I don't think so, but we finally agreed, and I said I'd like to try to see if it helps. And it definitely helped. It helped with her appetite, because she was late 80s, going on 90. And whenever she got sick, and there were a lot of trips or a lot of visits from the EMT. And so I just thought, I'm going to try and see if it makes a difference. And it definitely did. Made her feel better, helped her eat. And as her dementia progressed, one little hit or two hits on a vape. We never smoked. I never rolled a joint, or I'm not really a smoker. But I had a vape pen, or either an edible. And she was so engaged. And it didn't take a lot. And she was so engaged after she took a couple of tokes. And sometimes it wasn't, weed or marijuana for cannabis with THC. And a lot of times it was more CBD, which was the non-psychoactive
Right.
cannabis.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is
That's
very
amazing.
amazing. Very amazing. But I mean, we
And-
hear that all the time,
Mhm.
especially with chronic pain. There are so many people that do it for that. Because who wants to be in pain, and then who wants to be on drugs where they can't maneuver? A lot of times the drugs
Right.
make you sleepy.
Absolutely. And actually, that was a plus for me, being 24/7 caregiver for a person with sundowners. And sundowners is a lot of people with dementia, or just people with Alzheimer's or up in age. They get sundowners, which means they have no idea what's day and night.
Yes.
And that became, towards the end, that became a really big issue, because I was exhausted sometimes,
Mhm.
but I had to stay up all night with her, because she wasn't aware of what time it was. And so being able to, I tried melatonin and a lot of things, and now and then I would give her a little cannabis, and it helped us both to get some rest.
Yes. Wow.
This is why I'm really pleased that we're having this conversation all around this anthology, because many people don't understand the role that cannabis can play in helping people,
Mhm.
and of course our loved ones, endure what they're going through.
True.
And this is nothing new. This marijuana has been around for a
True.
long
Oh yes, forever.
And there were people who knew what to do with it, how to use it. But we took all of that information, I won't say we, but the system took that information and threw it away.
Yes.
And now we're just regaining ancient knowledge and putting it to practical use. And a lot of people don't see it that way. So
Mhm.
this is valuable information.
Yes, it is.
So I understand why you are an avid advocate for
Yes.
medical cannabis.
Yeah,
You-
and
You've experienced it.
yes, yes, very much so. And you know, I really hope that now that they're slowly legalizing, that we really are able to get a lot of research done so
Mhm.
that we really know. The way I knew how to give my mother Tylenol or aspirin or whatever, or
Mhm.
her medication. Hopefully we will come to a point where that much research has been done so that we know what strains or you know, terpenes are
Mhm.
what's in cannabis
Mhm.
and the cannabinoids, and we have this endocannabinoid system in our body, and I hopefully at some point we will be able to have solid research.
Yes.
You just said something that was, I hadn't heard before. You said that we have an endocannabinoid.
Yeah, endocannabinoid system in our receptors in our body, and they totally didn't teach this because I guess it was illegal to teach this in med schools. And
Well, they
we
made
have
it
receptors
illegal.
in our brain, in our peripheral, in our gut, everywhere in our body. We have receptors
That's
for cannabinoids.
amazing. The research on that alone could be actually life-saving.
Amen.
Yes.
We have to be able to recognize that if people thousands of years ago figured it out and were using it, and they knew if this type of plant was growing here, it had the same effects, but there was something additional because of the soil that it was grown in, or maybe the weather conditions, all those things that affect plant life. If they knew it,
Right.
how did we miss it?
We didn't miss it.
We did. Thank you. I was
Totally agree, we didn't.
We didn't.
There's a little thing called the Flexner report.
yeah,
You know
it's
about that one
Yeah, we
too.
didn't miss it. I mean, they didn't want to use it because they couldn't really make money off of it.
Exactly.
It's a natural product from the earth. All you need is a seed and you can plant your own. So how can they really profit from that?
they can't. And it wasn't just greed, although that was probably the priority when they were making it illegal, but it was also racism. And it was a way to make something illegal that a lot of people of color, especially African American and Mexican,
Indigenous people.
were using.
Mhm.
I mean, they used cannabis in China thousands of years ago, in Africa thousands, in
Oh,
Egypt.
yeah. And probably the
So many
Indians.
different ways that
Yeah. India, yeah,
literally
especially.
put big pharma, what we call today big pharma, the big pharmacy companies out of business, or they would lose a lot of business.
Right.
Yeah,
Because if all of that knowledge comes back, then we would depend on the earth to give us what we need.
yeah.
And which they do, because 90% of all medicine has plants in it.
Thank you. I I was just gonna, you read my mind. We're in the same place. Aspirin. I mean, just
Yeah.
pain relievers
Yeah. My mother was a
were
registered
derived from plants.
and she had, I can never get it correct, the Medica Pharmacia, the little black book, and I found it as a child. So my mother was a registered nurse way back when. They were making their own medicines. And I remember looking in that little book and it had things like cherries and licorice, all the things that sounded
Yeah.
perfectly good to me, lemons, things that I had never heard of, elderberry, all those different berries and roots and fruits that
Yeah.
are good for us.
Because all of those things that you've mentioned have terpenes. Lemons, citrus, all plants, fruits, vegetables have terpenes. Lavender, the terpene is linalool.
Okay.
And you can get different strains of cannabis now that have certain terpenes that are anti-inflammatory, antibacterial. I use cannabis with terpenes that have a lot of limonene. That's from the citrus, because it's good for anxiety and depression.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. Well, you know, we are definitely going to have you back so that we can talk about this some more and really get into depth. But if people want to connect with you, how do they do so?
They can just, actually, I haven't really set up anything. I'm in the process of setting up a, hopefully a small company that deals specifically with terpenes. But dthig@gmail.com is my email. And @dthig is my Instagram and my Twitter.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to have you back just to talk about this particular area so that people can really get a good understanding of what it is and how it can help them. So Dorothy, we are so grateful that you shared your experiences with us. And we are looking forward to the book because I know it's going to be amazing. You know, I've been following you guys on Clubhouse and it has always been a pleasant time and a learning opportunity. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And we will
Thank you for having me. And I just have to mention how fantastic Dr. Bridget Williams is.
Oh yeah, she's a doll.
Yeah.
She is a pure doll. And you know, I remember when she was brainstorming this and we had a couple of conversations around this. And you know, it's amazing. And this is huge stuff. So I am just so glad that she went with her gut and just went on and said, I'm gonna do the darn thing.
I told her, she totally pulled me out of my comfort zone to do this. But I'm glad. I'm glad she did.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we will definitely talk again.
Okay.
So thank you. Because I learned quite a bit here.
Absolutely. You threw a couple at me that I have to think about, go do my own research.
Yes.
That's what we want everyone to do.
Passing it on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are pleased to welcome our next guest, Mary Jane Borden, who is an author, artist, and award-winning cannabis activist from Westerville, Ohio. During her 40-year career in drug policy, she has co-founded and led 5 cannabis-oriented groups, co-authored 4 proposed constitutional amendments, lobbied for 6 medical marijuana bills, composed 41 funded grants, written 50 articles for the Columbus Free Press, and testified before the Ohio House and Senate to encourage passage of Ohio's medical cannabis law. She currently writes a monthly compilation of cannabis news under the moniker Mary Jane's Guide. Her voice is heard again as a contributing author to the anthology Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Mary Jane.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for having me this evening. I'm pleased to be here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. 40 years?
Yep. I have my normal membership card to show you. So just in case you doubt me, it's from 82.
Oh my goodness. And I'm afraid to say, how did you get started? Because 40 years ago. So what made you really become this passionate about the cannabis?
Well, I think I really go back 50 years, if you want to know the truth on it. It's been 50 years since I started college at a Midwestern school here in the Columbus area. And so I guess as a college student, you imbibe, and so it goes back to that particular time. But also back in that particular time as well, I read a book called The Greening of America, and for me it kind of laid out what I would see as the vision of the future, which is kind of somewhat akin to the now famed Green New Deal, but also included a cannabis component where they foresaw way back then the potential for cannabis to be, an agricultural crop, to be a medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what first tuned in my brain to there might be something here in the cannabis space.
Wow. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with you.
Well, we could go back to that period of time because that's when everybody started using marijuana. It became widely known on the college campuses. Everybody knew about cannabis. We called it Mary Jane, as a matter of fact.
That's part of my story for the book.
So,
on being Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, and amongst other names, but yeah, Mary Jane. I thought that was funny when I saw your bio. I was like, okay, but yeah, that was when people really began using it, and it was illegal, and yet even back then, people were saying, a lot of college students were saying that it worked for them for various reasons, and now, like you said, 50 years later,
Yes,
the world
yes.
is finally waking up to the fact that this is a plant and that it has benefits. So I'm curious to know, I see medical marijuana bills. You went to the Ohio House and Senate. What kind of battles have you had to fight?
Yes.
Well, it's been, like I say, it's been a 30 to 40-year battle. I think it all starts with the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, which was kind of championed and by then President Richard Nixon, who declared war on drugs similarly in 1970. And so the outgrowth of that was for example, in Ohio, 1975, decriminalized marijuana to make it a $150 fine maximum with no jail time, which was quite contrary to the penalties that were laid out in the Controlled Substances Act. Because a lot of the penalties that were so egregious, I mean, that are part of federal law now, were they channeled down to the states through a different piece of legislation, so that Ohio became reflective of that, and it did many, many, many states. And so I think that was kind of the first touch of what decriminalization looked like, was when Ohio passed the decrim back in 1975. Now, stretching forward from that, you have to kind of take a trek through history. There are periods of time when cannabis comes out of the closet, becomes accepted. And there are also periods of times when the legislatures and the governing bodies put more and more and more in place, more and more laws against it. This was particularly true in the 1980s and the 1990s. There were probably as many as 10, 15 laws that were different laws that were passed. Some that would, as I said, originally marijuana is placed in Schedule 3 on the Controlled Substances Act, but they would apply penalties to it. Jail time, drug testing procedures, and you could be kicked out of, for example, Section 8 housing, or you would lose your driver's license, and on and on and on and on. And so that was the marks of the 80s, 1980s, and the 1990s. Now, when we passed into the new millennium, it's like, I don't know if there was awakening going on, or if we just plain got sick of the criminalization, because it started to be really egregious and really something I think that was intolerable for the conscience of much of America. So beginning in the 2000s, we had the emergence of a number of bills. Now we'll backtrack slightly here, because what really probably kicked it off was in 1996, when Californians passed the Compassionate Use Act, I think it was called. So that kicked off the idea of doing a ballot issue, and it kicked off the idea that this is medicine. And it was set up a very loose framework for regulated cannabis in California, and that spread to Oregon, that spread to Washington, some of the more progressive states. And so here in Ohio, we thought, well, we need to be part of this. And so beginning, I think, around the late 90s to the early 2000s, you start seeing legislative movement. Now, during that period of time, you had maybe 6 bills introduced, and they went nowhere, because it was just the way it was at the time, that people were still in the reefer madness mindset. So the real movement, I think, towards what we have now began in 2012 with the passage of adult use initiatives in both Colorado and Washington. That kind of kicked it off. That kind of kicked it off in a number of states, so that we now, have Michigan as neighbor. Michigan has a adult use state. A part of the Big Ten, Illinois is a part of as adult use state. So we're heading in that direction now. But what the challenges were, I think, was just overcoming all of the reefer madness that was engendered during the 1980s and 1990s. Try to pull back on all those laws. It's very difficult, because a prohibition is ingrained in a lot of different areas of not just the laws that were passed, but appropriations bills and things like that. So it's got its tentacles spread far and wide. And it's going to be very difficult to retract those. But I think we're starting to do that now. We're starting to talk about diversity, and we're starting to talk about, and truly ending the drug war. So the time maybe moves slowly, but at least it's moving.
Yes, yes. And with people like you, it's going to continue to move.
I hope.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous.
Wow, that was a lot of history that
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue about. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So before we go any further, how do people get in contact with you? How do people get involved with the movement?
Well, I think my personal email address is going to be put into the compilation. Facebook, I think one of the great game changers for the legalization movement was the emergence of Facebook, because people and activists are so easily reached on various Facebook pages. And I think there's dozens even of them out there, on various topics, whether they're focused on Ohio's medical program, or they're focused on adult use, or some are focused on religion, some are focused on hemp and nutrition. So I think what your interest is, if you're on a Facebook person, you could really very easily get into the movement by just joining any one of those Facebook pages.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Wow. So I'm not even going to ask what made you do this book, because I already know. But for the purpose of our audience, what excited you about the book?
Well, there's a funny thing going on in my life. I don't know if this is going to happen to others or not, but I find myself being the oldest person in the room. Now, I don't understand this age thing, because I grew up at the age of Peter Pan. I don't think we're going to get old. Right now, are we getting old? Right. And it was okay.
Better.
No, we're going to stay 20 all our lives. With that mindset anyway, with the old body. but nonetheless, I think that it was because I was reaching that age that you could go stand up and you kind of look back at your life. You look at this, you know, standing on this kind of a rise. You're not really done yet, I hope, but you're looking out over the course of your life and what's gone on over the last, 50 plus years, because I'm a little older than 50. And you want to say, okay, what is my story? And I think that was what motivated me to participate. I thought, here's a venue, a perfect venue, really, for me to tell perhaps my unique story, because my name is Mary Jane. My name was given to me by my dad. My dad, it's a family name that goes in a Welsh tradition. My dad was a Welshman. And so, I have been Mary Jane from the day I was born. And I continue. So my driver's license, and so my diplomas, la la la. And so it's an odd way, because people don't quite understand sometimes that yes, women can be named Mary Jane, and it's not a joke against marijuana, because and it's funny too. You see your name like on the DEA's website. Okay, here are the slang words for marijuana, and there's my name. So I think that made an interesting twist. How is it that, I'm not completely unique. I think there are some other Mary Janes in the marijuana reform movement, but on being Mary Jane as a part of this movement is probably a unique experience that most people don't experience.
Oh yeah, I'll say.
Yes.
I mean, because you definitely a fighter. I mean, you've gone to the Senate. I mean, you really are passionate beyond a shadow of a doubt. You spent pretty much all of your life advocating.
Well, yes and yes. I had an interesting, I graduated from college, and then I went on and got an MBA. And so I'm this little upperly mobile professional, and I'm about 30 years old. How you're just so sure of yourself at age 30. I want to have that confidence again. And so I went to work for a really big pharma. I worked for big pharma. It was a company that was the largest U.S. marketer of cancer chemotherapy agents. So cancer chemotherapy became my life. That's what I did. I'm an analyst. That was what I put my MBA to work for. And I would analyze, sales and units and dollars and doctors and things like that to give executives of the drug company information of how to chart the course of their future. And so 9 years of my life was spent at Big Pharma, and it was a beautiful, it was a bucolic setting, the beautiful digs, pay, you had, health insurance. It was a great ride. But it became a little uncomfortable for me because, here are these people, I'm a manager on a database of about 30,000 cancer patients. So when you're looking at data is a widget. Data could be anything. You're talking about market share. It's just who has more of a market than something else. And it could be, tires, so happens in this case, it was chemotherapy drugs. But the reality behind that was that there were people there. They're human beings. And I would see them in my data. They weren't making it very far on these agents. They're if you know anything about cancer chemotherapy, and I hope you don't, but if you do, you know that it's incredibly toxic. It's essentially, they're poisons. One of them, cyclophosphamide, as an example, was actually germinated from nerve gas. Wow. So these are injectable. These are not drugs that you inhale or that you take as a pill. These are drugs that they put into your system with needles and injections and fusions. And so, they're extraordinarily toxic. And so I became uncomfortable with that. Ultimately, it started to just kind of rot your soul, And so where the company actually did end up leaving town because they were bought out by Pfizer, I left and then pursued what I wanted to do. This was probably about the early 90s. About mid 90s, late 90s, I started to pursue my second career in cannabis advocacy. but it probably helped motivate that along because it's something that I guess in my older age now, and I'll have to say this, okay, true confessions, ready? I had cancer last year. I had, in fact, the most invasive kind of cancer. It's called triple negative, and you can't use hormonally based drugs to treat it. So they're going to throw the book at you, which is basically the adriamycin, methotrexate, fluorouracil, things like that that I analyzed 40 years ago. And I said to myself, I'm not doing that. I don't care. I don't care. I am not doing it. What I'm going to do instead, it's going to follow my heart, and I'm going to use something that's called RSO. And it's just basically a synonym, a moniker, if you will. It's not patented or anything like that or trademarked, but it stands for Rick Simpson oil. And so what it does is a highly concentrated, largely THC oil. And there's a whole protocol that has been devised for this, but it's nothing that has been, it's not FDA approved, it's not FDA examined. In fact, you can't even study it because of what? The Controlled Substances Act of 1970 prevents research from being conducted on potential cancer cures. If cannabis could cure cancer, would you run for it?
Yes.
Kind of the premise.
Heavens, yes.
Yeah, so I did that, and I had my yearly checkup 2 days ago, and I am doing good. They were really surprised about how well I was doing.
Wow.
And it's been a fabulous year for me. You would think that after cancer diagnosis, you say, hey, I just had the greatest year of my life with COVID going on, but and I don't want to be too facetious on this, but it's true. I felt really very, probably as healthy as I've felt in 30 years, honestly.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
it's weird to take your life full circle. You've done all the advocacy, go, oh, wait a second. I made legal something now that helps me treat my cancer. Wow. I didn't intend to do that, but I did.
Right. Yes. And that's an amazing testimony. Wow.
Yes, it is.
An amazing testimony. Because had you went with their stuff, we might not be talking right now.
Oh, I would be dead. I'd be dead. I have no question. I know the pharmaceutical she's gonna come after me. Honestly, truth of the matter, I felt that I would have had it this year, this beautiful year I've had. I would have had it if I'd done that. And if and even if I didn't die, it makes you so sick. You lose, of course, you lose your hair, but that hair's a minor thing. They do have what's called chemobrain. It affects your brain cells because any cell that's in your body that's growing rapidly, the agent is designed to kill. And so you lose your hair, you lose your mind. Another thing is adriamycin, doxorubicin, that's the generic name for it, is cardiotoxic. So you can only take a certain amount of it. There's a lifetime limit of 150 milligrams. So and they'll probably give it at maybe 10 milligram increments, but maybe several tens at one time, something like that. And so I just know from my experience, what I learned at being an analyst at Big Pharma, and what I know now, having studied it for particularly my Mary Jane's Guide articles and all those things that I currently write about now, I'm so convinced I took the right path. And I'm going to tell the world about it, but I say, hey, it might not be for everybody, but for me personally, it was a game changer.
Yes. And I mean, you definitely a testimony with the cancer. That is huge.
And, the interesting thing is, in the same year, we talked about a minute ago, the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. Okay. And 2 months after that, 2 months after that was passed, 2 months after Richard Nixon declared war on drugs in 1970, he similarly declared war on cancer. I will argue with you. I will argue that the war on cancer has been about as successful as the war on drugs.
Right.
And I've heard that. Yes, that is an analogy that's made.
Yes.
Have not been successful at all.
Wow.
And yet the thing that they were worried about being illegal is one of those God-given items that literally works miracles for many people.
Yes.
It's like you said, it's a game changer.
Yes.
I'm so glad that you made that choice so that we could have this wonderful discussion with you, Mary Jane.
And
I would
I'm
always
looking forward to more.
I hope
Yes,
so. I've got a lot to
I would
say.
love to
I know
have
you did.
conversations with you.
We are definitely going to do this again. Because
Yeah,
this is huge, and you are a walking encyclopedia.
yeah. About things that people don't think about, you know? I can remember when DC passed that law,
Mhm.
and people where I am, because I live in Maryland, were up in arms. I think they thought that people were going to be everywhere, passed out on the streets. That was basically the attitude that people had until you started learning. This is not, you know, people aren't going to be running around being high. This is a whole different medical arrangement. Now, there's
Exactly.
still those who are still doing whatever, but the medical arrangement, the fact that this could be so positive for
Yes.
so many people as it was for you. You know, there are people who are alive today and functioning because of your courage.
Yes.
You are to be commended for your
Yes.
courage.
Absolutely. I am so honored to meet you.
No, thank you.
Yes.
I really am. Well, Mary Jane, it has been a blessing, an honor, and all of that. And we are definitely looking forward to more conversations surrounding this because I mean, I've learned so much, so much. And I'm just so grateful to you. So thank you for all that you do.
Mhm.
But I did. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
Our next guest is Adila Anwar, who oversees 8 committees on behalf of a risk and compliance organization called the National Association of Black Compliance and Risk Management Professionals. Adila utilizes her extensive experience and knowledge in financial technology, actuarial, and risk and compliance industries to help picture opportunities in different industries. She has had the opportunity to work on behalf of some of the world's largest bank-branded fiduciary projects. Now, Adila shares her business acumen regarding the cannabis industry and the upcoming anthology, Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Adila.
Yes, welcome, Adila. We are
Thank you.
so honored and privileged to have you. Wow, you have been a busy bee.
I have.
Yes, you have. So get into a little bit about what you've been doing so that the audience can understand the different roles that you play.
Okay, so right now, what I'm doing is I work on behalf of Deloitte as a senior consultant. But outside of Deloitte, I'm doing something I feel that's even more so important. I'm working with a lot of individuals in the I would say the governance sector, helping them to understand risk and compliance in different industries. I work on behalf of NACROMP. NACROMP is the National Association of Black Compliance Risk and Risk Management Professionals. So basically, why that work is so important is because we as Black Americans in society, we've been shut out of different industries and a routine model.
Mhm.
What we're doing is we're taking back some of that power and bringing in this initiative of the DEI perspective that was legislation passed by the United States government, which is basically telling all different industries that they need to have representation of Black and brown people in those industries. It's made into law for the Fortune 500 companies. Those Fortune 5 companies are now required to have Black and brown people on their boards, or else they get fined. So essentially, the CROMP, we're running with the initiative of being able to, come into these industries, let them know about our presence, because a lot of times they say, well, we don't see any Black or brown people working in regulatory and risk. We can't put them on the board because they don't have the experience. Well, no, they exist. And our organization has over 200 members that showcase not just an existence, but professionalism. You know, we are corporate professionals, you know, those C-suite professionals working on behalf of some of the world's largest companies. So the fact that we don't exist doesn't diminish, you know, what our goal is, because we do exist and we're basically out here in front, letting people know that we are here. And addition to that, I'm an entrepreneur. Um, I've basically attained property in Maine, about 100 acres. What I intend to do with that property is begin a project, basically, you know, helping people who in a legal state like Maine to have a piece of the pie and be able to grow. We want to bridge the gap between generational wealth. We want to allow people the opportunity to uh, learn about wealth, but actually grow up in a situation where they're not impoverished anymore. I think that we have enough technology and we have enough ability in this world to be able to stand up and take some ownership now, with our you know, with our own money and skills. And I think that we're coming into that in this world now.
Absolutely. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing place to be.
It is. And, you know, I'm just looking at it from a vantage point at first of technology. And that's what brought me on to building in my work group, the cannabis industry. You know, already I would say we've been ostracized as a Black community. The cannabis industry has uh, not really been friendly to us.
No, not at
Okay.
all. So
And
many,
yeah,
so
Because
many
there's so
Black and
much
brown people
there's
have
so
been
much money in it.
incarcerated.
just incarcerated. Well, you know, we're the poster child of the crime, of the DARE
Mm.
programs, of the Reaganomics. We're those poster children, you know, of those times. And now what's happening is that with this industry, you know, there comes a penalty for everybody. You know, it's just not a Black problem. It's not a white problem anymore. It's about medical utilization. It's about availability across the rest of the nation. You know, it's kind of unfair to say, yeah, it's legal in this state, but it's not legal in that state, because now we have to look at the guidelines, whether or not, you know, it's even ethical to allow somebody else to have an advantage over another person.
Yes,
You know, because
absolutely.
you know, we talk about ethics, and that falls under risk and compliance. So basically, what I've been doing is going on educational tours with my group, utilizing Clubhouse as a platform to kind of give information from each different industry
Mhm.
to kind of explain, you know, what is cannabis? What does it mean to you in your work industry? You know, what does it mean as a doctor? What does it mean as a lawyer? What does it mean as an individual working in the corporate world? Because at some point in time, what people don't understand and realize, we have to interface with this.
Yes, we do. Yes, we
We
do.
do. Everybody's going to have to get an education on this, whether or not you want it or not,
Not. Yep. You're
because they're
so
making
right.
decisions. They're making decisions in the boardroom that affect all of us. If
Yes.
Walmart makes a decision in the boardroom about cannabis, and they have somebody who's making that decision who doesn't have education about cannabis, then it affects everybody, and it affects Walmart, and it affects people who are on the board.
Yes, because you know, one of the, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things when this first started becoming legal was a lot of companies drug test. How that's not viable anymore.
It's not. And as you see, large companies like Amazons of the world, they're taking a step back and they're like, okay, well, maybe we should stop testing for cannabis because it is legal in these states, and maybe we shouldn't be looking at that as a ding for drug testing anymore. You know, there's large uh, companies like that taking that step. And I believe that if Amazon is doing it, there's going to be more following the
Oh,
same
yeah.
path.
Without a
You know.
doubt, without a doubt. Yes, because I mean, it's here to stay. I don't know how it got illegal in the first place. It's a plant.
Absolutely. And the fact that we're fighting about a plant, I believe that that even raises the stakes even higher. You know, this is something that grows out the ground. And, you know, I won't even get into the avocation part of it. It's just, it's business. At the end of the day, it's business. Business is basically you're denying everyone here and you're giving everyone here a privilege. You know, it's secular at this point, and it should be, everybody should be on one page.
Yes, yes.
And we have, you know, our organization, the CROM, now we have over 60 corporate members, large companies, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Fidelity Investments. These are our corporate members. Later, what will happen is, you know, basically we will have opportunity to give them the information that we're collecting in these work groups.
Mhm.
If they need industry knowledge, if they need leadership, if they need a resource, you know, that's what our organization provides. It provides leadership and resources, but you're getting it from a Black and brown community now. And that is the advantage. You're not anymore having to look at a different organization that's not representing this color, because we are an organization that represents Black and brown people, but we are credible.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. That is wonderful. That is a wonderful thing that you're doing. And
And I
I
would like to tell you a little bit too about our founder, Jennifer. Jennifer is Jennifer Newton, D. Newton. She is our founder. She is, I would say, amazing. Her philanthropic work, her background as a professor, a lawyer, you know, she, you know, she is very. I would say she likes to be behind the scenes, but she is the one who is pushing this organization into its direction. You know, she is the one who had the vision. I didn't understand what the vision was at first, to be quite honest, because I just wanted to join, you know, as a board member. I didn't want to be the chairwoman necessarily. It was something that I was kind of asked to do. You know, I was, you know, voted in to do it, and they felt that I was the right one to do it. But I didn't come in looking just for leadership. I came in just wanting to be a part of the cause.
Mhm. Yes.
And
And
that
what is the
translated
name of
into
the
more.
organization again?
NACROMP, the National Association of Black Compliance Risk Management Professionals.
Wow. Yes, I'm definitely going to look that up. I have learned so much.
www.nacromp.org. That's that's the website. And we're doing, I'm just going to say, we're just doing amazing things in the risk and compliance space. There's not many people like us that are advocating for risk and compliance. And everybody knows that in any company, you need to know the rules.
Yes.
You have to know the rules of the industry. You have to know the rules of the game. And the CROM, with our leaders, you know, they're coming from all different places, Walmart, NBC News, you know, our board members, Fannie Mae, you know, it's, the demographic is across, and we're not just, you know, we have some people who are not of Black ethnicity on the board, but what I'm saying is that we're getting the attention of everybody at this point, because everybody wants to be a part of this organization, because, you know, we're representing this space of risk and compliance management, and before that was never done, never.
And that's important.
Okay,
Absolutely.
as I hear this, I might guess my question is, are you saying that NAPCROMP, the CROMP,
Yes,
is
NACROMP.
really putting a face to the fact that the Black and brown people in this country are a force to be reckoned with? And it's
Absolutely.
putting them in the position to be a force to be reckoned with, because all of these other companies are being brought together in a congenial way to look at what they need to do, not the old affirmative action model, but rather something real, concrete, that will last, that cannot be taken out by legislation.
Absolutely. The legislation is already in place. There is legislation right now, today on Capitol Hill, that states that the SEC has to have a collection from the companies who is representing their boards. The boards have to be diverse. The DEI calls, the diversity and inclusion and equality challenges. This is the legislation that was put out. Challenges each and every Fortune 500 company that's publicly traded to put somebody on their board who is of ethnicity of different than other than white, because there's a lack of diversity, and we know it in this
Mhm.
country. So now they have to, if they're publicly traded by by the SEC's standpoint, they have to put more diversified people on their boards. They can no longer have just a board that looks all white. It's not feasible anymore. I know my company internally, Deloitte, they're making the change. They have a robust program and they're doing it, and these Fortune 500 and Big Four industry leaders like the PricewaterhouseCoopers and the KPMGs and the Deloittes of the world, they are putting forth the effort too to implement what it is, because this is these are the people who's governing and guiding other companies. We're consultants, so we have to ensure other companies are doing their due diligence as well. But this is across the board now. This is, I would say, within the last year after George Floyd. This is something that's really came
That's
up.
what commented this.
Yes.
Okay, this is most interesting. This is most interesting.
Yes.
There hasn't been anything like this. There's never been anything like this. This is very different.
If you
This
wanted
is-
me, if you really wanted me to really dig in, it's really its own movement. We had the civil rights movement, right?
Yes.
Now we're having a movement, whereas we have to be, it's law. We
Right.
have to be represented across the board. So when you see this term DEI and you see it, I mean, I'm sure you're starting to see it pop up everywhere, right?
Yes.
Because it's the law now. It's kind of like the civil rights movement of today, honestly.
Yes. And
Okay.
and
That's
one of the
exactly
things
it.
that I noticed it in first was commercials. That's the
Oh,
first
yeah.
place that I noticed. I started seeing more Black and brown people in commercials.
Mhm.
And it was very noticeable. I was like, wow, they've got more Black and brown people in commercials now.
Constantly.
Now they're just like the LGBT, the people who are for the gay rights.
Right.
That there, it's his own civil rights challenge as well, because
Yes.
they have to fight for the rights to be included in insurance and recognized as a spouse if they're married. That's its own movement. This
Mhm.
DEI is a movement to include Black and brown people into work society. You can no longer close the door and say, no, you don't qualify, or you're overqualified. Now you really got to figure out, why am I overqualified, or
Mhm.
what does it mean to be not applicable? You can't use those vague terms anymore.
Right. Exactly. Wow.
There must
Wow.
be some
Adina.
personnel managers who are losing their minds,
Yes.
who are losing their minds.
And
Oh
that's what's
my.
happening. A lot of the companies, that's why they're banding with our organization, because we're providing resources. We're here as a resource. We're here as the people on the ground working in the industries. What better place to go than to talk to the people who's working in these industries who are Black and brown? They'll tell you. We do recruiting for them now. We post that on our website for them.
Oh my.
We have different work groups that are collaborating with leaderships across the board to bring in more perspective, because it's lacking and they need that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, That's all I
Wow.
can say is thank you for bringing this to our attention. This has been a phenomenal night.
Yes, it
This is
has.
something that I'll honestly say I didn't know anything about, but now I do, and I will be looking for it and be aware of it when I see it come to the fore, because it's going to come to the fore. It's not going to be hidden for much longer. People don't know about it. They
It's his
will.
own movement. And
Yeah.
like you said, for those who don't know, they're gonna know
Oh,
because
yeah.
I mean it's here. And just like the cannabis industry, it's here. Now it's about building the foundation. And
Yes.
that's what we intend to do as an organization. And that's what I intend to do as an individual. I don't care about the money. I care more about the laws in place to help people be protected from a fiduciary level, from a leadership level, from a level of legacy. We want to protect our legacy. Now we've been slaved. We've been told that our voice doesn't matter. Now we have these technologies in place. We
Mhm.
have an opportunity to gain the vantage and the control. The banks are closed. They were closed to us before, but now we have all these different apps that are
Yes.
available. We have the currencies that are available. There's no need anymore to say that we're being closed out of society. We
That's
got to
right.
take control.
That's
That's what we're going to do.
That's
All
right.
righty now.
All righty now.
We're going to have you back too.
Yes.
Because this is something we need to dig deeper into, that people need to hear more about and really understand what's at stake and how to get a stake. For years, for centuries, we have
Yeah.
not had a stake in this country.
Yes.
And every time we did get a stake, something mysterious always happened. Our whole communities were burned down. Now it's time for us to understand how to take a stake, literally take a
And that
stake.
can't happen anymore. You can't burn down the internet.
No,
You can
you
block the
can't.
internet. You can't burn down the web. Look at this media show. Look how you have the freedom to build and plan a show. It doesn't have to be silence. It doesn't have to be you don't have to be told what to do anymore in this world.
Yes.
As far as your freedom now is through this internet
That's true.
and
That's so true.
technology. And the more I would say people get educated about technology and how we can benefit as a people from this technology, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely. So for people want to get in contact with you, how do they do so?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Adela Anwar. You can reach me on LinkedIn, or you can reach me through my organization because, like you said, I'm a busy woman. But but definitely reach me through www.narcm, NARCMP.com. Oh, excuse me, .org.
Okay. I'm
narcm.org.
definitely going to be visiting because this is like, I'm interested in things like this in terms of, getting equity for our people is huge.
I'm just going to say this in closing. There's a lot of money on the table. See, it's not what I always care about. It's not about making the money, though. It's about keeping it.
Yes.
How do I keep money and retain it, and so that it builds and builds and builds and builds? And
Right.
that's only through education. Education is not the education that you're going to get in the university anymore. I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
No. It's going to be the education that you're taking and you're applying yourself and you're getting that's out here, that's already floating, and it's free.
Yes.
It's just getting behind the right people. In our leadership groups, we're the right people to get behind because we're giving people access to those resources. We have membership, we have a membership service, but you're getting access to a network of people who are working in this industry's leadership, people who are helping you to become a leader. Because that's what happened to me when I came to the CROM. I became a leader. I was put into leadership. I didn't ask for it, but they gave it to me because they said that you can do it. And that's what they did.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so, so much. We are so honored to have you. And we are definitely looking for more and more. We're going to be following you. As soon as we are done, I'm going to go right to the website.
Yes, indeed.
Because I am excited about
Well,
what
I'd like
I've
to come
heard.
back again. You know,
Yes.
I believe I need to bring Jennifer back with me because
Yes, you do.
Yes.
she's going to tell you all of it. You know, because we're out here and we're working on the leadership of our people. We're not underprivileged anymore.
Right.
We're not broke. All of us know, you know, we're not coming from society where with that mindset of we're
Yes.
living in the ghetto and we're underprivileged. That is being diminished slowly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we pull more people out of it, then they're getting put into those work streams. And there's plenty of work to do. There's plenty of work to do. It's just getting in contact with the right people. And we're not turning nobody away.
I
Okay.
heard
We're
that.
not closing no doors. The doors are open.
I heard that. I know that's right. Well, thank you so, so much. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. What a night of learning.
Mhm.
Wow.
I have been educated at every level.
Yeah.
Every level. And I am so glad that you guys said yes and to this platform. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning because all of you have brought some knowledge that I never knew.
Mhm.
And that is so huge.
Yeah.
That is
This
so
was an
huge.
amazing night. This was I didn't know what to expect, but that's one of the lovely things about doing this is that we meet people who each one has a unique perspective and knowledge that they pass on so freely. And it's so appreciated. Not only does our listening audience get it, but we get it first. You know, so we know the value of what you have. And I'm just so impressed. I am so impressed by each one of you, the knowledge that you brought tonight. I really thank you. I heard things that I had never heard before, things I didn't know about. You know, it's just this whole cannabis thing. You blew it wide open for me so that I have an understanding, a better understanding of it now, and why it is so important that we use intelligence, not just emotions. It has to be our intelligence applied to a plant. You know, it's a plant. Years ago, it probably grew on every street corner, every alleyway.
Well, weed.
All of a sudden, it became, illegal. You know, the whole Great Plains was full of it. All of New York State was full of it. And now we're bringing it back to center. We're bringing it something that should be in the lives of people, because that's why it was created to begin with, because it was here for us. It was here for us as something that our bodies need. And who was it that told me about the receptors in the body? If it wasn't meant for us, we wouldn't have the receptors in our bodies.
Right.
So, I'm just grateful. I mean, organizations that are out there going to just take people to the next level. If you're willing to go, take us to the next level. People who are experiencing using it down in the trenches, in the dispensaries, actually seeing the people hands-on, and people who have been fighting for years to bring this to a place where people will stop running around thinking that the world is full of potheads.
Right.
There is something, yes, we have, I'm just so grateful. This was amazing to me. And I tend to ramble on, so I'll be quiet now. I'm a chatterbox, so I'll be quiet.
Yes, and we're so excited. When we get excited, I know I get a little spitty when I get excited. But I am really honored. Dr. Bridget, I am so glad that she moved forward with her vision, because in doing so, we may have never have met you guys.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what God has next, because I know that there's something next with
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
I feel it in my bones, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we definitely
wonderful.
will be doing this again. And I will be following each and every one of you, because now it is on. It is definitely on. So
Let's see what
thank
we can
you
do with what we
again.
have.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you again. And boy, I'm going to sleep smiling tonight.
I
And
thank
telling
you very much.
Thank you both. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
thank
It
you
It was my
all.
pleasure. Thank you. And again, I would just say I appreciate everyone for inviting us today. It was very pleasurable, enjoyable.
Yes,
Yeah,
we enjoyed you.
You really made me very comfortable, and I was very anxious. So thank you very much.
Good,
so
good, good. Because we like to think our platform is like sitting around the kitchen table. You know,
Mhm.
we are not a hot
chatting.
spot. We just talk. If we get spitty, we get spitty. Whatever happens, we just let it flow.
Yes.
So that's how we like to hold our platform. It's not pre-asked questions. We just move with the flow.
Yeah. People are comfortable that way. You
Yes.
get to be yourselves. And that's what we want to
Yeah.
get to know. Because when Ida has said this often, when you are yourselves and people get to hear that and see that, they identify with you.
Mhm.
And therefore they're going to come with you. You
Yes.
know, so hopefully our platform is able to do that. And for each one of you, I'm sure it has. There are going to be people who want to know more about you and hear more from you, because you each one has a unique perspective.
Yes.
It was
Also
powerful.
want to,
Thank you all for your efforts,
yes.
the work that you do, your courage. Just continue.
Yes, indeed. And also follow them on Clubhouse. Dr. Bridget does, what is it, 7 o'clock on Tuesdays on
Mhm.
Clubhouse?
Yes.
Yes. So
Courage and Cannabis Clubhouse, room name, Courage and Cannabis.
yes. And I mean, the last time I was in the room, I think it was about almost 100 people in the room. It was
Wow.
quite a few people. I got to hear Broderick. I got to hear Adila. So I know you guys were out there a lot. So definitely check it out. And that's Tuesdays at 7.
Tuesdays at 7. And what is it called again?
Courage and Cannabis.
Okay, Courage and Cannabis, the same name. Okay.
Yep. It's the, let me make sure. Mary Jane, am I right? I just want to be sure.
Tuesday, yeah, it was yesterday.
Yep.
Tuesday at 7. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
At 7 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
Okay, yes, DD. Okay. I want to make sure that we get that somewhere into the marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tuesday.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking
Thank
time
you.
out your busy schedule to spend it with us. It was definitely well worth it.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
I look
Thank you.
forward to coming back.
Oh yeah, you know you coming back. All of y'all coming back.
Same here.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Good evening,
Okay,
ladies.
have a good
you.
evening. Thank you again so much. From the heart, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.